Hey everyone, we have a special video today. I'm very happy to be speaking with the one and only Jason Crowe, founder of Qortal. This is going to be a little bit of a different video because it's the first time I speak with Jason on this YouTube channel, but he will have a lot to say, and he's actually the man behind Qortal. So thank you once again, Jason, for taking the time to come on today and speaking with me.
Yeah, of course, man.
And I think we should just jump right into it. And let me start off by asking you, first of all, Jason, for anyone who's never heard of Qortal, what is it in one sentence?
In one sentence, that one's always a difficult one for me, but essentially, we are completely rebuilding the internet in a much better way.
That's a perfect way to start. And what are you trying to solve when you started building Qortal? Because it's a complex app, so there must have been some thought that went behind it when you first got into it.
Yeah, so it's a lot more than just one specific problem, right? There are issues all over the digital world, whether it's in the current blockchain space, on the current internet. There's hackings and thefts and all kinds of stuff going on all the time. And a lot of that can be prevented. And it's also about individual sovereignty and freedom and leveling the playing field for everyone, right? That's how the world should be built. So we were trying to build something that would facilitate that. Yeah.
Great. That's probably the best answer you could have given, and I agree 100%. We are seeing a lot of problems on the normal web, and that actually brings me into my third question: is what makes Qortal different from the rest of Web3? Because let's be honest, there are a lot of projects in the Web3 space, but why Qortal out of all the others?
So that's a good question, because a lot of people will come to me and be like, "Oh, can you review this platform or this platform?" because they say that they do something similar to Qortal. And every single time I have looked into them, not a single one has actually been similar to Qortal. Now, they are still utilizing servers to host their interfaces, and they're still utilizing majority of the same things that the current Web 2 internet uses, and they're kind of sort of loosely communicating to a blockchain. And most of the time, they're not even communicating to a blockchain, they're communicating to a smart contract that is not even validated directly by consensus when things happen. So it's like, I don't understand this. Why are you even saying that this is a blockchain thing, for one? And for two, you're still using all the same things. So what makes you better in any way? I don't get it, right?
That's kind of true. And to be honest, I kind of agree, because a lot of what we're seeing, a lot of the projects that are coming up in the Web3 space don't actually solve the problems with Web3, as you just mentioned. So it's definitely something to think about when considering which project to look into for those that are new to Web3. And how do you think Qortal stays fully peer-to-peer when, like you said, most other Web3 projects still rely on, for example, AWS or other centralized infrastructure? How does Qortal do things differently?
So that one is pretty straightforward, really. It's just that you've got to follow the original principles of what a decentralized thing is. And the way that I've always explained that to people that don't understand is that if you are communicating outside of your own computer, then that thing is not decentralized, right? If you're communicating to some other thing, to a server or whatever, and you have to do that in order to make this thing function, then it's not decentralized. It's that simple. So everyone on Qortal installs and runs software on their own machine, the Qortal core and Qortal hub, and hub communicates to core, and that's it, right? And so you're not ever sending information outside of your own computer. Now the core does, right? But it only sends encrypted chunked data and blockchain synchronization information, but you yourself aren't doing that. The core is, right? And so it's a completely different way to look at everything. And you don't have to communicate directly to a server that has control over your accounts and all the different things that are going on. You're communicating only to your own machine, right? And that's what really makes it different. And having the ability to run on devices as small as something like this, right? That can run the entire network. That is key. Now you've got to be able to run on any computer so that any person can actually take part in building this network. And if you can't do that, and a lot of these other projects can't do that, right? Like I looked into the requirements for something like a Solana node. Go look into those requirements and tell me that you have a computer that's able to run a Solana node. Most people don't, right? And their requirements are just crazy. And so you can't have these crazy requirements, and you just have to communicate only to your own machine. It's that simple. So.
Actually, that was a very good breakdown of decentralization as a whole, I would think, even more so than Web3. But it's true that there should be no middlemen. And I think I repeat that a lot on this channel, which is get rid of the middlemen, only be connecting with the network itself, peer-to-peer, of course, and your own machine. So that's really something that I think you hit the nail on the head. And what can everyday users actually do on Qortal? Because you mentioned a couple of things, but pragmatically, what could somebody right now do on Qortal that, for example, they wouldn't be able to do on some other blockchain?
So ultimately, longer term, everything, right? Like that's the goal, is that when we get more developers in and all of the apps that you're using on a regular basis, including this one here where we're streaming and doing real-time communications, which is coming up very soon for Qortal, we will be able to do on Qortal, right? And right now, we've got QTube, which is a YouTube-like replacement. We've got QMail, so you can communicate. I've been working very hard on Q Assets, which has now a fully featured data management and project management system built into it. So you can pretty much do most of the things that you do on a regular basis on your computer. You can communicate, you can watch videos, you can read people's blogs, you can do all kinds of different things, right? So it's really not just about one thing, right? Is the internet one thing? No. So how can the new internet be just one thing, right? And I don't even like to consider Qortal really just an app either, because it's really a digital infrastructure. It allows you to turn your existing computers into the next generation of the internet. And you don't need to have all this hosted stuff involved. You just take all the computers that people are normally using and turn that into the infrastructure and build it to where you communicate only to your own machine. It sounds simple, right? But it's not to build, but it's very easy to use, right? So we are getting to the point, and with the next changes that we're working on now that are actually seeming like they're going to be completed sooner than I expected, which is really exciting. This is like the final milestone for Qortal. Once we get that done, there will not be a single thing that Qortal cannot do. And so that means that we can literally rebuild everything that you do on your computer on a regular basis, everything, and which is amazing, right? So it's a very exciting time.
Honestly, truly groundbreaking too. Just the idea of trying to replace the internet and rebuild it from the ground up, completely decentralized. Most people would think that's a small task, and most people would think it's outrageous. But here we are. We're already well on our way to doing it. Like you said, with the next release, it should be
and it's
more than possible.
It's so funny because a lot of the time, people just won't believe me, right? Like I'll say all the things that Qortal can do, and they'll be like, "That's too good to be true," essentially. And I'm like, but it exists and I can show you? No? Okay. It's funny because a lot of people just won't check it out because they think it's too good to be true. And that's just kind of a lame argument, I think. Like if I can show it to you and prove that all the things that it's doing is actually what I say, then how is it too good to be true, right? Like I don't get it.
Definitely. Like I said, it is a big motto to live up to, but I think we're doing an amazing job, and you're doing an amazing job. Which leads me into my next question, which is, why is running a node so important on Qortal, and why did you design it so that anybody can do it? Like you just showed us before a orange pie. Why did you conceive it that way?
Well, again, that's the key to decentralization. It has to be that way. And most people aren't sitting here with computers like crazy ones that I build or like ones that are running in data centers, right? So you've got to have something that can run on a typical user's computer. And everyone, and this was actually a Raspberry Pi. This is the older version
Oh,
of the Cortector, right? But yeah, the newer ones are they're literally able to replace like most people's desktops and run just as fast. So they're incredible. But
mhm.
yeah, you need to be able to run on any computer if you want to be able to put the power back into the hands of the people and level the playing field. You can't level the playing field if you're playing with tools that nobody has, right? So you've got to be able to do that. And that's another key thing with the way that the blockchain itself on Qortal is designed is it stays small. It stays between 5 and 10 gigabytes. And most computers these days have well over 5 to 10 gigabytes free. And so that's a key thing too, because if you look at just the size of a lot of the blockchains, just the database, not even considering anything else, just the database itself, most of them are now approaching over 500 to 500 gigs to a terabyte, and they'll just continue to grow because they haven't thought about ensuring that that can stay in a size that's manageable. And that was one of the key things for Qortal. There's a lot of different things that were like key points, especially for me, because I had seen so many projects in the past. I was like, this, they cannot be changed. These things have to be this way. And so that was one of those things. And yeah, so you've got to have the ability to run on any computer in order to be able to level the playing field like we're trying to do, right?
Wow, amazing. And I think that's the essence of decentralization, right? Anybody being able to run a full node and validate transactions. And I think
Absolutely.
Qortal is one of the best blockchains out there that is doing that extremely well, just based on what you explained in the last few minutes. And that leads me to my final question, which is, where do you see Qortal in the next 5 years? I mean, we already saw so many amazing advancements coming from the Qortal project, and I think it's
Has been cool.
definitely a trailblazer and a forerunner in the Web3 space. But I think this is just the beginning. Where do you see it going in the next 5 years?
So I actually don't even like to use the term Web3, and I know using it to get people's attention is fine and whatever, but we're technically Web 4. If they're Web 3, then we're Web 4 because we are not the same at all, right? But yeah, so ultimately what I see is that we will start getting the attention of at least the smarter business people and so forth that want to have the security and redundancy and that kind of thing that comes along with building something on Qortal. And we'll start to see more applications being developed outside of just the Qortal development group. And then we'll also see growth in the community. And then eventually we'll get to the point where people don't really see a point in utilizing the internet anymore. And we will also get to a point where Qortal will not need to communicate over TCP/IP or the internet anymore either. And that's one of the next things too. With these changes on the networking side that we're making, we will be able to connect node to node without anything in between, including the internet, right? So you won't even have to utilize your internet connection, the ISP, to connect to the network, which is going to be absolutely incredible. Now, I don't know if that'll be fully done within 5 years, but I could see a very large chunk of the network being able to communicate in that fashion and establishing the mesh network. And so there's going to be a lot of stuff going on in the next 5 years. And I can see a large number of people starting to utilize Qortal for pretty much all of the things that they use their computer for. And that would be amazing, right? And so I see more apps coming to Qortal, more development coming to Qortal, and both the primary groups on Qortal, the Minter admins and development admins growing, and also potentially some of the new leveling methods and some of the other core underlying features that have been planned for Qortal getting implemented. And so it's just going to be a lot of fun. Like we've seen massive improvements over the last even just year or 2 years. Yeah. And so these first 5 years were all about getting it stable, getting the bugs worked out. And now it's going to be about the fun part, which is getting new people in, getting new apps built, and getting everybody utilizing it, right?
Really exciting stuff. And you're right, we're just at the cusp of, I would think, mass adoption, because with the issues, just to recap what we were saying earlier, with the issues we're seeing on the normal internet, I think it would just be logical for people to flock to Qortal. I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet, but I think it's going to happen very shortly, especially if we're able to implement or even half the things that we're talking about during this call, which is absolutely spectacular.
And we've been able to so far every single thing that we plan to do, we did, right? So there's no reason for people to doubt anymore. So I think we're finally through that phase to where when we say this is going to happen, people now believe it because every single thing we've said before, even though if they didn't believe it at the time, we did it. And so they've been like, well, at least they do what they say, right? And so and then we got to the point where now everybody's like, okay, if they say it's going to happen, it's going to happen. We can plan on it. And so now it's going to be a lot of fun now. I think we're finally through the whole like people starting to understand and then working out issues and getting everything stable. And that was like a lot of work and a pain to get through that. But now it's moving into the mass adoption and fun times. And I think that's it's definitely going to be what moves us forward. Yeah.
Definitely, and I think it's going to be well deserved with all the effort and the enthusiasm that I could sense radiating from you. So I can't wait to see how this is going to go. And what should people do if they want to get to know more about you or follow you? Is there somewhere they could find you on Qortal?
Yeah, so my name on Qortal is the name that I use everywhere, which is Crowetic, and that's Crowetic. So you can message me there. Probably Qmail is better because normally I'm either in development or assisting with testing things or whatever, so I'm always all over the place. So message me on Qmail. You can also go to crowetic.com, which I'm in the process of kind of revamping, and I'm adding some other stuff there. So that's another way if you want to communicate with me on the traditional internet. But yeah, so there are multiple ways to get in touch with me. Yeah.
Definitely, and I think people will have a lot of questions for you if once they start looking into Qortal for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, thank you once again, Jason, for this talk. I think we're gonna have a few others like this in the future, without a doubt. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We could deep dive into this for many hours, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I'm down.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jason, and yeah, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.
See ya.